Hey, g'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and in this video we're going to continue the build on the D-Max, and in this video going to be installing a brake controller with the harness to go with, and the type I'm going with is by Hayman Reece. It is their CompactIQ, and it is one of the ones that have a separate little switch and an LED that you can have up in your dash, so it's a sort of a remote mount, as it says here. So pretty cool, looking forward to getting that in. And then to make things nice and easy, they do these full smart click harnesses that go in your car ready to go, and that's kind of the idea. I like the idea of that. I like the idea of pulling it out of the box and having it reasonably ready to go, not one of those harnesses where you got to sort of bring your own soldering iron. So pulling both of these apart, we have our actual brake controller here, and you can see it is quite a nice compact unit, and the idea is you can have this up under your dash out of the way. Then our actual harness, we can suss that out. Here we can see connector, so that's pretty cool. It looks like we've got our full wiring loom as well. So what we'll have here is this top loom here will go through to the battery connection. That's what's going to power it. We have our positive is our orange wire here with our white stripe. White wire is our negative, and we can see in here we have our auto resettable fuse, auto reset breaker in here as well, which is awesome, ready to go. So that then would need to come through the firewall, so we'll just need to pull these wires out of the connector. This then would go through to these pins here, and this is what is ultimately going to connect to under our dash. So this sucker can go under the dash as long as we can see their direction of travel. Then this guy runs down to the back of our actual brake controller harness to the tow bar, and we button it all together. So the next step is to get our loom, the front section from the battery, down snaked through so it's down here ready to be plugged in. So same as what we did when we were accessing the engine bay when we were wiring in the auto tub lock. It's just a matter of finding our little grommet and feeding the wire through. So lay out your harness, don't connect anything yet, but basically you want to have plenty of slack here and room to be able to route everything around. You want to go up underneath the firewall there, behind the existing hard lines here, lots and lots of zip ties to keep everything away, because you don't want this falling down the back here where you've got nice and hot parts of your engine. So up nice and tight in behind the hard lines. It is conduited, so you're all good. Then just zip tie it every sort of 200 mil or so. You should then have our remaining section here, as we saw in our previous video when we were doing our auto lock. That's our grommet that we want to get through. You want to pull it off. If you haven't already, put a bit of about a 10 to 20 mil nick in it with a Stanley knife. Once you've fully finished this, it's a matter of just getting some silicone, some Sikaflex or what have you, just to put a bit of silicone over there, and you're good to go as far as keeping the thing nice and waterproof. So that's our next step, to feed that through and then rip around to the inside and pull that wire through. And there we go. So don't go too crazy, because you're not going to need heaps and heaps of wire, because ultimately our module's going to sit up underneath here. So you only really need a little bit. Make sure you got enough for the engine bay, and from this point you can now secure that loom off in the engine bay using your zip ties. Right, so now that's done, we need to pretty much grab everything else. So grab the remaining harness. You're going to need the extra button bits, you're going to need the extra clip bits, and then the controller itself. So if you grab all of that, head back over to the driver's floor and we can start laying this out. Alright, so if we get ourselves organized here, this is the bits that we're going to use when we install it into the dash, so we can put those guys up there. We're going to need this is our extra connector, and then for our harness, this is the section that's going to go back towards the rear and connect up to our trailer harness. So from a connector point of view, we have this one here, which is, funnily enough, the same as our other connectors up the top here. So orange with white stripe, and our negative, which is white in this case, and here we are as well. So this guy can connect straight into that. They're made for each other. That's pretty sort of straightforward. There we go, good connection there. And then the leftover bit, these guys, we need to pin our connector here, use our locking pin, and then that is what connects in to here to the actual controller itself. So we've got two bits. We have our actual connector, and then this is our locking pin. We can see that there's actually A, B, C, and D there. So we need to make sure we're putting the right colors into the right pins. The colors that you want to use is the first one here on your right is going to be your power pin. That's the orange, and the white one here. The side that you're looking to insert it is not the sort of the T side, it's the other side, the big open bit. You can see on these pins, one side will sort of be flat and the other side will have a little bit of a tab on it. And the tab is the section that you want to face down towards the skinny bit of the T, if that makes sense. So if we pin this sucker up, we're looking for A. So that's our furthest to our right. That's our power one. So we want to just push it in until it clicks into place like that. B is our red wire. So there's our B. Next one, spin it around so our tabby bit's on the bottom till it clicks in like that as well. C is white, tabby bit on the bottom, so it clicks in, and then a lucky last blue, which is the all-important brake power, goes in to D. And there we go. So make sure they're in nice and firm, and then final step is to grab your little locking mechanism here. That can only really go in one way. You can see how that's going to work. Our little tab bit here is going to lock in there, and what this does is locks the whole thing in so that those cables cannot come out. And there we go. Once you've done that, it's a matter of getting it lined up to the controller itself and clicking it together, just like that. So once we're all buttoned up, we've got our controller all connected to our harness going to the rear, and we've got our power connected. The next part is routing this slot to our actual harness down the back. Now there's probably a couple of ways you can do it. Well, there is a couple of ways that you can do it. You could route this back up and then all the way down and underneath. However, what I'm going to be doing is routing it underneath our trim to get it out the back here, because the D-Max has, if we drop this back, it turns out, I'm like, what's going on with these things? So there's actually a vent that sits in behind here, which conveniently is able to drop wire down underneath all of this, nice and neat, directly underneath behind the back of the ute and the tub itself. So we're able to drop cable directly underneath. That's the route I'm going to take. So all we need to do is take our trim pieces off on both sides so we can route it down underneath, all underneath here, so it's nice and neat and hidden away. So you can see, there we go, you can route it all the way underneath. There's even some slots that Isuzu have kindly left us, so you can run it all the way along and then clip that all back into place. I've already done this section, so this is what it should look like. It's all nice and hidden directly under here, and then spitting out up the top here, as you can see. So we want to continue to run it under the trim here so that it's ready to go here. Now, to get this guy off, pretty straightforward. This whole section here just pulls off. Unclip each of these by just giving it a bit of a pull, and then once each of them all are out, you can just lift the whole thing up and out. Just like that. Then what we need to do, you'll see that there's some clips here for our soundproofing, and then there we go. So that will get us down underneath and then to our harness at the back. So there are our two plugs. Just a matter of grabbing some of our slots here, feeding them both through. So there's our wiring harness. We can see coming through completely in the wrong spot. So pull it all the way through, tack onto this loom there and run it down the back to our actual trailer plug. Now you would have seen with the install of this guy here and then the wiring harness itself, there's an extra plug sitting here ready to go. So we're going to use these to connect directly into the factory Isuzu harness to be able to give the signal for the brakes to work into the plug itself. So that's pretty cool. We're good to go there. From there, it's just a matter of completing the run of the cable itself. So grab your zip ties, jump underneath, and then just zip tie it all into place. Once you've confirmed you're good to go with the length of the cable, the next step is to start putting this into place. So this is the brains of the operation, and this part is super important. You need to find a happy spot for this, and surprise, surprise, the direction of travel arrow, this module needs to be in that direction. So it can be sort of moved around. It can be upside down, it can be this way, or it can be that way, so long as the arrow is pointing the direction you're going. And once you've got that guy plugged in up underneath, you want to get your actual switch component and the LED, and then it's going to depend on where you want to put it. Once again, if you're putting it over here, these plugs pop out and it's a matter of just putting them in there. For me though, I'm going to be installing it in the center console here. Next part would be just to remove this section here. Use your trim removal tool. There are two sections here. So there's the top part, and can you see how there's a split along the top there? That comes out separately. If you get your trim removal tool and then just jam it underneath, you can see that's wanting to start to come out. Same side, same on the other side, and then same in the middle. So there we go, and then we should be able to just pull up, just gently does it, and there we go, we can get underneath. These pieces here on the sides, they come out separate, so just take your time again. There's 3 or 4 of those clips. So there's one, and the other side clips out as well. So jump your hand underneath there and just push that guy out, and there's our first one. What we need to do is we're going to have to chuck these in the vise or what have you and drill them out. For our LED, that's going to be nice and easy because the LED's not very fat. However, for our actual plug itself, it is a bit of a different story, and we can see that we're going to have to seriously get stuck into this plug to make the inside of this fat enough to accept the full plug itself, because we need the whole gold section sticking out above the top of the faceplate. So main thing to remember is you don't want to damage these little wing clips on the sides, because that's what holds it in there. Now if you make a mess of this, don't stress. These you can buy from most of your auto parts stores. You can buy full blanking replacements of these. So if you make a bit of a mess of this when you're trying to cut it out to fit your application, no dramas, go down to Autobarn or Super Cheap, or even online. I'll put some links in the description. You can pick up a bunch of spares for a couple of bucks. So what I was able to do with these buttons here as they were, you can see that we're able to move the existing factory ones across. It's just a matter of removing the plug that sits underneath each of these. It's super easy to do. You just remove the plug itself, disconnect the plug, and then the wiring underneath here, as you can see, it's just a matter of routing it back around the front here. But there you go, so you can customize these to your heart's desire and put them wherever suits you. So the next step here is, once we've located that one, is grabbing the actual LED indicator light. That gets fed through, but before you do, make sure you use your little section here. This is what will sit into the top of the switch there, like that, so it's nice and flush, before we move on to finalizing the wiring at the back and then giving the system a test. Right, so once you've got these installed and they're all in place, the next step is to grab the decals and install those as you see fit. Now, I'm not going to put the one on the LED. I like the look without it, without anything surround, but going to install the other section around the fine tune toggle switch, so it's all easy to see. And the only other thing up the front here, once you've got these switches all installed, is to jump down in the footwell, grab your cabling, make sure your connectors are all nice and connected, and the one that connects to the actual controller itself up underneath here. Make sure that the controller is all nice and secured using the supplied double-sided tape and what have you there, so it's all nice in position. I've just used an extra zip tie. And then once you have all of this wiring all secured, it's a matter of tucking it up, use your zip ties underneath, then head to the back and finalize the wiring on the connection switch itself. So down the back here, grab your cable, the loom that's already been run, and you'll see we have the two different wires. We have one which is the brake signal being red and blue being the brake power itself. And what we need to do is connect those wires up to the loom that's already there. So you can see that it's the same colors, blue, power, red being the signal, but our connector itself isn't the same. So we're going to have to play with that. You will see that there's this additional section, the additional connector for the Hayman Reece, but we don't need that, so you can tape that one up. You will see with the factory loom though, it does have the other section, so you can pull that one out and install these wires, or use an additional connector, or connect them directly. As long as you're making sure that we're doing colors to colors, and blue goes through to blue and red is connecting to the signal wire as well. So come around to your engine bay where you've got your two wires, remembering that the white one is your earth, and then your positive being the black cable that has our automatic reset. So just pop them into place and then head back inside the cabin, head to your switch, and then if you give it a press, we should see, there we go, we can see that our light's functioning, and that's indicating that it is braking. Next step is, knowing that that is all okay, is to button everything back up. So remembering that with your center console, you want to get these side components first, and they need to go on in the first instance, so they just get lined up into each of the holes along the front here, and then the second one on that side, this whole section then just clips down nice and easily. Just take your time and make sure that each of these green clips all line up. And then once you're all buttoned up at the front, it's time to give the thing a test. So head around to your trailer, get your connection and connect it all up, and then head back to the cabin. And then what you should see is green for gold. Green means you're all connected a-okay. It's a pretty cool little unit because you've got this bottom section here, which is your boost, and you've got no boost, boost 1, boost 2, boost 3, but then this top is then the fine tuning. So depending on the weight of the caravan or the load that you're towing, you can kind of adjust up your boost and then fine tune with the top section there as well. So pretty cool. Then you've got your indicator light telling you that everything is a-okay. When the foot goes on the brake, we go to red, meaning that it is braking. So this is telling us that the system is all working as intended, which is pretty cool. Then the other cool thing with this particular unit is, well, the same as most of them, but it's really easy to access because the emergency override is literally just pressing down on top. You can see there that it's putting the full brake force on, and I think that does that in like half a second or something. So that's perfect. If you got any sort of trailer sway or anything like that, you can easily hit that and right that. And that's why, I guess, coming back to what we were looking at the start of the video around where to put this thing, you know, I think Isuzu normally sticks it over here, you know, but even in the center console here, over this side where I was originally going to put it, where the blanks originally are in the factory D-Maxes, you know, you still, by the time you've got it in drive here, as you can see from a driver's position, you kind of got to reach for it and grab for it, whereas here it's just right there, and that's so easy to hit if you need to in an emergency. And then obviously nice and easy, and as a driver you can easily see sort of what's going on with your brakes when you have a trailer connected. And that's it for another video, guys. I hope that you found it helpful as always. If you haven't yet checked out the build-up series for the new D-Max, check it out in the full playlist. I think there's about 5 or 6 videos in there now. So if you've got one of these, or you're interested in the D-Max, or you're doing a bit of a build-up yourself, check that out. There's more content coming out every single week. If you did enjoy the video, consider leaving a bit of a thumbs up, a bit of a like. Leave me a comment down below in what sort of mods you're doing to your D-Max. I'd love to know and sort of follow along as well. And of course, if you're keen to support the channel and see more of content just like this, hit the old subscribe button here, and don't forget the little bell, because that'll trigger a little notification every time that I upload any new videos. As always though, guys, I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.